This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 149th time, we are live from the Reviewing Network studios. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Reviewing Network Live on this end of the 4th of July holiday weekend, the end of America's 250th birthday weekend. And, yeah, it is what it is, and we're at the halfway point of the year. So, you know what that means on this particular channel. If you've been following me over the last couple of years, that means it's the annual State of the Reviewing Network address, where I announce some projects coming up over the next year or so that I hope to get accomplished. And I do mean hope, because this year's State of the Reviewing Network is going to be very different. You're going to have some stuff that will be announced, but you're also going to have some things that are kind of in the pipeline right now about whether or not I want to do them or not. But we'll touch on that at the end of the show. We have some other big stories in the world of entertainment to get across this week. But before we do any of that, something I wanted to bring up a couple weeks ago that happened that I never brought it up until now. But I was going to bring it up the previous weekend, but I completely forgot about it. But you remember a couple of weeks ago when we got that retrospective trailer for the new Tom Cruise movie, Digger? You know, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there was like a trailer that Warner Brothers put out where, you know, they basically had like a career highlight of Tom Cruise's career all the way back to his debut film and his debut first starring role in Taps back in 1981. They had that great scene of him with the AK-47 going like, "It's beautiful, man!" And he's just shooting everybody like that. Like, it goes all the way back to that, and it shows all these different films that he's been in in the past 45 years. And it's a great trailer, and it actually leaked a couple of weeks ago because it was actually in theaters beforehand. But then they started putting the trailer out there online, and showed a little bit of the end of the trailer for like kind of a little bit of a tease for the new not Paul Thomas Anderson movie, the new Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu movie that he's in, Digger. And so I'm bringing it up because I did a trailer review for it, which you have probably already seen on this particular channel. But I also, if you don't know, I have a TikTok account where I put my trailer reactions on there. So I put the trailer reaction on TikTok, and then out of the blue, I get a message from TikTok saying that the hashtag Digger is a violation of the community guidelines, and all I'm thinking to myself is, are you serious right now? Because, I mean, obviously, you take one letter out of there, and it's basically, you know, a certain word that you call a black person that you should never call a black person. I don't care who you are, but it's at the same time, it's like, let me see if I can find the picture here, and I'll put it up on the screen for you. Where's that? Here it is right here. So you see, it says, the hashtag Digger may be associated with behavior or content that violates our community guidelines and cannot be restored. This is a real thing. This is a real violation that I got from TikTok. So, let me see if I got this straight, TikTok. Putting the name of a highly anticipated movie starring Tom Cruise is more of a violation than, and something against your community guidelines. Meanwhile, you literally have people on your platform that are known to be notorious scumbags on there doing the most heinous things ever, and yet that's not considered a violation of your guidelines at all. Like, you know, I've seen people on TikTok who do the most atrocious things. There are so many videos on the internet about people like, you know, the guy who like, he goes into like restaurants and like throws stuff into like the fryers and all that. He sprayed bug spray on a bunch of like vegetables at Walmart, and yet it took him a long time to take his stuff down. And it's not just him; it's just like all these other different people on there. But me saying the name of an upcoming Tom Cruise movie because of one letter that looks so close to a slur is apparently a violation of TikTok's community guidelines. Do you see why I don't like TikTok that much and why I very rarely use it? Because of stuff like this. And this is not the first time that TikTok has given me these kind of complaints, these kind of criticisms, violations, and all that. And because it makes no sense. Like, there's a whole, like, there'll be times when I'll put videos that are perfectly fine on this channel, but if I put them on TikTok, I get a thing of just like, you violated the community guidelines, when it's literally clips from Home Alone. I'll never forget it. There was one time I put a clip up from Home Alone. It's the, because there was a time when I was doing, like, Home Alone scenes for, like, the teams getting eliminated from the playoffs, eliminated from postseason contention, and there was one for the Seahawks, and it's the scene where, you know, Kevin is up the stairs and he's throwing the paint cans down to Marvin Harry. I put Mike McDaniel and I put Geno Smith on he's on Marvin Harry, and apparently that was considered a violation. For what? Because of the violence in that movie, in Home Alone? Because that's what they've said. In the past, I get these violations because, oh, you might incite violence. It's just like, it's a scene from Home Alone. Like I don't get it with these things here, and it's why, like, out of all the social media platforms, I'm more hesitant than not to go to get rid of TikTok because of stuff like this. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's just like, what am I supposed to do here? I can't call it Digger Movie because I'll probably get the same thing overall. In fact, I wanted to test the theory here. Like, if I put a letter to every letter in front of the IGGER, except for the obvious one, would that be considered a violation? I thought about doing that, but then I thought, you know, I'm already on hot water with TikTok, so I'm not doing that. But I mean, it's just stupid, man. It's just really, really stupid. It's just like, why? Like, why am I getting this violation because of the name of a Tom Cruise movie that if it's one letter away from saying something that you should not say to any black person, and it's just like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. I can't be the only one that notices it, and you know, since then, TikTok hasn't said anything about it. It's like, nope, we stand by our convictions and all that. Meanwhile, you got people who are literally doing the most atrocious things out there, and then they get off completely scot-free. Just, I don't know. It's just something that really bugged me overall, but I just wanted to say that because the full trailer for Digger is coming out on July 13th, so that should be fun when I put the trailer reaction for that up there. Like, honestly, I thought about just redoing the whole reaction video, just going, like, anytime it says the word Digger, I'd just be like, it's just like, you know, first reaction to Tom Cruise's newest movie, like you know, like that type of thing over there. It's like the Jeremy Jahns video from the past when, you know, the free speech thing was going to happen, and he redid his whole review for the Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn trailer. Let me see if I can find it so I can give you kind of an idea of what it is. Sopo was what it's called. I actually got the video here, so let's just take a quick listen here to show you what I'm talking about.
Or something. No, I'm gonna run in the... Look at this chick's smug look. Haha, Belly's getting married. What's up with this trailer music? It's way too epic for a wedding.
Statement removed due to copyright infringement.
Are you serious with this? I mean, this trailer music would work if, like, Magneto was pulling a submarine out of the water.
Statement removed due to copyright infringement.
Or Thor was out there just kicking ass.
Statement removed due to copyright infringement.
But a wedding? That's just unnecessary. That's overkill. Just be realistic about it and play Pachelbel's Canon in D major.
Statement removed due to copyright infringement.
It's a segment removed for Better Tomorrow, and they add all the still fit things on the bottom there, but yeah, that's what I think I might do for this upcoming Digger trailer reaction whenever that trailer comes out on would be Monday, actually, next Monday, actually, July the 13th, since that's what it said on the poster. But anyway, I wanted to start off with that, and you might, if you're not listening to this, obviously you're going to listen to this if you're on my channel here, but this might be leading into one of the projects I've got coming up here over the next year or so in the State of the Reviewing Network address. We'll save that for later, but in the meantime, let's get to what we usually start off with here on this program, and that is, of course, the weekend box office. And yeah, the weekend box office was certainly very underwhelming. I'll say that because, yeah, the movie you think is number one, but let's just say that it did not open with the biggest numbers that I think everyone was expecting it to. I mean, you would think that a movie like the number one movie, would have the big opening that you would expect it to, because, you know, it's opening up the same week as some of the other Despicable Me movies, and yet it didn't, which I kind of just spoiled what it is, which I wasn't meaning to do, but we'll get to that in just a second here. But let's get to the number 5 movie this week, and that is Disclosure Day, which actually did have one of the stronger holds this weekend at 27.3% drop-off. $6 million, crossed over the $100 million mark this weekend, $105.3 million. After 4 weeks, you include worldwide numbers, is up to $216 million. And, you know, that's pretty good for that movie overall. To still stick around there. You know, the movie did pretty well with critics overall. Got a little bit of a mixed word of mouth early on, but it's sticking around there. And, hey, still doing good business. And, you know, one of the things that you'll notice about this top 5 is that Obsession is not in there this weekend. It's just that it's at number 6. Still hanging in there at $5.3 million. I think it had its biggest drop-off yet at 45%, with $245.3 million after 8 weeks. So it looks like that movie is heading its way out here, especially considering that next Tuesday it's coming out on Blu-ray for the first time ever. So, I mean, technically it's still the new way of doing things, where you release a new release 2 months after it's been in theaters, which, you know, 22 years ago, when I always remember when Surviving Christmas came out on DVD 2 months after it came out in theaters. You know, that was like unprecedented territory. Nobody was doing that, because it usually was 4 to 6 months after the movie's theatrical release. But now it's just like 2 months later, boom, here it is on Blu-ray. But which brings us to number 4, and oh boy, yeah, I think James Gunn is in big trouble here, because Supergirl fell off big time here. 74.1% drop off, $9.6 million. After 2 weeks, it's brought in $58.5 million. It's crossed the $100 million mark, but with a movie that cost $180 million to make, yeah, this is going to lose a lot of money. And everything that I've heard coming out of this movie in general, and coming out from the Hollywood Reporter article that came out not too long, this past week, yeah, I think that James Gunn's in trouble, big trouble here, because apparently there was 2 different cuts of this movie, and guess which one is a director's cut by Craig Gillespie, and then another cut made by the studio. And guess which one won? The director's cut, not the director's cut, the studio cut, the one that cuts out 11 minutes and takes a huge chunk out of the storyline and the villain of the movie. So yeah, this is not looking good here. So yeah, James, I mean, it seems like the biggest problem right now with James Gunn's DC universe is that he's basically putting a lot of the work together himself, and you can't really do that. I mean, that's part of the reason why the Zack Snyder universe didn't work at all, because Zack Snyder was involved with a lot of those projects, and you know, it was basically what Zack Snyder thinks of these superheroes in general here, and what we've seen so far is, you know, somebody who is taking a lot of control over these different projects, and it's something where it's just like, I think it really is going to hurt this universe overall here, and it basically puts a lot more pressure on James Gunn to deliver here, because of course the next movie is another Superman movie. This time it's the sequel to the Superman film from the previous year, and yeah, it's going to put a lot of pressure on him to deliver. And you know, we've had 3 straight Superman movies, because Superman was in Supergirl too, and you know, you got 3 straight Superman movies. We haven't seen what else they're doing with like the other DC characters yet, and they're hiring the same writer for Supergirl that they are for Teen Titans and Wonder Woman. But not only that, you have all this clashing behind the scenes in general with the director and all that type of stuff, and it really, I mean, I really am feeling uncomfortable here about what the future is going to be here, more than I did last week, because if this new stuff that came out this week is true, then yeah, the DC universe is just doomed to fail, and it really makes me worried that, you know, when the new overlords at Trump Paramount come in, you know, they're going to put Zack Snyder back in there. It's just going to be back where we were 10 years ago. I mean, I just feel like that's what's going to happen here. But I don't know. But this is not looking good for Supergirl. Just a big mistake, really, in just spending all that money. Like, there's no reason a Supergirl movie should have cost almost the same amount of money as Superman did. But they did it, and now they're suffering for it. So let's go ahead and move on now to the number 3 movie this week, which is a new release, Angel Studios' Young Washington, story about George Washington and the early life of the founding father and first president of the United States. It focuses on his experience and command in the French and Indian War between 1753 and 1755 with a guy by the name of William Franklin Miller, who's making his debut as a leading actor in this, with a cast that includes Mary Louise Parker, Kelsey Grammer, Andy Serkis, and Ben Kingsley. So it brought in $20.8 million, which actually did exceed projections overall, and reviews for it aren't terrible, but it's an Angel Studios movie, so Angel Studios is very hit and miss overall. More emphasis on the misses than the hits, but sometimes they can put out a bit, but they have an audience that's coming to their movies, and they've already announced that they're doing a sequel, 1776, about the signing of the Declaration of Independence, so I guess there's that. I'm probably never going to watch this movie in general, but hey, Angel Studios has an audience primed and ready to go see their films, so hey, more power to them. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on now to the number 2 movie this week, which is Toy Story 5, which dropped off unexpectedly more than I thought. I think people expected it to. 56.2% drop off, $31 million. It's brought in $366.3 million after 3 weeks. Already at $760 million, going to cross the $1 billion mark, no problems whatsoever. If you want to compare this to the third weekend of Toy Story 4, it's about $66 million more. It's about $60 million more than where Toy Story 4 was. Toy Story 4 after 3 weeks was at $306 million. So that's where that's at right now. So regardless, this is probably going to end up being the highest grossing of the Toy Story films, no question about it. The big thing about this movie, the drop-off, is that it's going to lead into the number 1 movie because, it's a lower number than people expected, and there was this belief that, the box office was going to be lower because the 4th of July was on a weekend, on a Saturday this year, which I didn't think was that big of a deal, especially considering it's been hot in most of the country, and yesterday during the celebrations and all that, you had people getting heat exhaustion and all that. So I would figure you'd go to the movie theater to go see a film in the air-conditioned theater to take your mind off of it, but guess not. Apparently, maybe the studio shouldn't have put anything out for the 250th birthday of America or something like that. Universal learned that lesson the hard way with the number 1 movie, Minions and Monsters, which did open as the number 1 movie, but much lower than people were expecting it to. Everyone was expecting the 5-day for this to be around $80 million. Barely cracked $60 million. $36.4 million for the 3-day. You include the 5-day numbers, $61.4 million. Brought in $159 million worldwide. So yeah, it's an underperforming movie right now, but here's the good news for Minions and Monsters. It's actually a reasonably budget film. It's only cost $85 million, which, for the 7th installment of a Despicable Me franchise, that is impressive to think about. It's impressive to think that this movie, the 7th film of the series, was an $85 million budget overall, and that's really impressive in general here. But you can't really deny that this is unfortunately a major disappointment. And the worst part about it is, this is the best Despicable Me movie we've had, and it's the one that people just decided, no, we're not going to go see it. No, we're going to, you have all the, the biggest reasoning is, of course, everyone thinking that the America 250 celebration was driving away ticket sales, as well as, Toy Story 5 and, franchise fatigue, which, I can agree with the last two, Toy Story 5 coming out, and also franchise fatigue. Because the last Despicable Me movie wasn't a great film overall, and yet that was still a big hit. But there is a belief that this film, because of how well the word of mouth is, it'll find an audience over the next couple of weeks, which I hope it does, because it is definitely the best of the Despicable Me films, and it deserves to be seen overall. But it just really bugs me, man. The Despicable Me movie that actually is really good is one that nobody bothers to go see, which, and it just makes you wonder, if Minions and Monsters underperforms, and that means that next week, the live-action Moana movie is coming out. The pre-sales for that were not looking too good, but, I don't think that means that's probably gonna be a hit. Come on. And I just ruined the bit for you. I was going to literally put in the Lyle Landley, oh no, from The Simpsons, but course, I had the audio off on that, but yeah, Moana comes out next week, and expectations for that are not looking too good. I think a lot of people are looking at the live action Moana movie and thinking to themselves, wow, you are not even waiting a whole 10 years to make the live action movie off of this. And the movie looks terrible. The movie really does look... The movie looks terrible from the advertising I've been seeing for it. And they've been using, like, AI generated... they've been using AI on it, supposedly. Which, I mean, it's just... this movie looks like it's going to be an unmitigated disaster. And yet, because of how Toy Story 4 and also Minions and Monsters didn't do so well this past weekend, it might just be the thing that might get people back into the movie theaters. And if that happens, it's just kind of like, really, we're going to do this again just like we did last year with How to Train Your Dragon. But luckily, there is an alternative, and that is, of course, Evil Dead Burn, which the word of mouth on that has not really come out yet, but the film looks incredibly fun overall. So the expectations are pretty good on that, but they do very well. And I hope I hope that movie does well enough that maybe, just maybe, it makes more than Moana does. I don't usually want to see movies bomb because, like most people do, but a movie like Moana deserves to bomb, especially the fact that it's not even coming 10 years after the original animated movie, and yet we're doing a live action movie because we apparently didn't learn our lesson from the last live action films we've had in the past. But we'll see what happens next week. It should make for a very intriguing box office, to say the least. But so there you go. That's the weekend box office in general, and we're going to get to the State of the Reviewing Network address in just a little bit here. But before we do, we have some big news stories, and there were a lot of big news stories pretty much all over the spectrum, and it started all the way on Monday morning. So, of course, right now the big story all over the country is the merger of Paramount and Warner Brothers, the impending one. But, mergers are becoming kind of the norm, but there's one company that's basically saying, yeah, we're going to go ahead and split our companies apart. You don't usually hear about that, but, yeah. The big story, of course, is that Comcast is splitting off with NBC, Universal, and Sky, which is pretty surprising when you really consider that, Universal has made a ton of money with the way that Comcast has been able to promote their company and all that, and the fact that they've basically decided, yeah, we're going to go our separate ways now. It's unprecedented, man. It is unprecedented, uncharted territory here. So in a major move that reshapes the media landscape, Comcast plans to split into two independently publicly traded companies through a tax-free spin-off of NBC, Universal, and Sky, the company said on Monday. For more than 60 years, our company has grown by embracing change and investing for the future. Today is another one of those milestones, Comcast CEOs Brian Roberts and Mike Cavanaugh wrote in a note to staff Monday. Roberts, who controls the company, will continue to be actively involved in the leadership of Comcast and NBC Universal, working in partnership with the CEO of both companies, the company said. Current co-CEO Mike Cavanaugh will serve as the CEO of NBC Universal, while Comcast former CFO Michael Angelicus will become the CEO of Comcast following the completion of separation, and the interim will join as a strategic advisor. Upon completion of the transaction, Comcast shareholders will own shares in both Comcast and NBC Universal, creating two focused industry leaders, each with significant scale, strong financial profiles, and distinct strategic operations, it said. The proposed separation reflects Comcast's track record of positioning its business to compete and win in rapidly changing markets. As technological innovations, consumer behavior, and competitive dynamics continue to reshape both media and communications, Comcast's board and management team believe each company will be better positioned to pursue its own strategic priorities, invest for growth, and create long-term shareholder value as independent entities. NBC Universal is anchored by its growing theme park division, the Universal Film and Television Studios, the NBC and Telemundo network, streaming service Peacock, and the Bravo cable network. In addition, NBC Universal's portfolio will also include Sky, its European media business. The conglomerate previously separated Versant Media, the home of most of its cable networks, in another move to create more focused business. Similar to the Versant spin, the split of Comcast is likely a precursor for more deal-making. A standalone connectivity company may be better positioned to do deals either as a buyer or a seller with other telecom companies, right as the cable business is under pressure from fixed wireless and now satellite internet firms like Starlink. A standalone NBC Universal could pursue deals with other media companies once again as a buyer or seller to scale up to complete. Warner Bros. Discovery, after all, saw interest in its business soar after it was announced plans to split into its cable TV and studio business, sparking a bidding war with NBC, Netflix, and the ultimately victorious Paramount Skydance. As an independent company, NBCUniversal will have even greater flexibility to invest beyond its strongest opportunities, expand partnerships, and compete with greater agility in a rapidly changing media landscape. We're equally excited about the future of Comcast. Similar to the WB deal structure, Comcast says that it will retain a 19.9% share in NBCUniversal with plans to monetize it after the split in order to help it deleverage. That suggests that the company believes there will be interest in NBCU. That said, on the call, Kavanaugh poured some cold water on the idea that a standalone NBCU would sell itself outright, stating that it's definitely not our plan. Let's just be honest, that's probably what's going to happen down the road here, but it's very interesting that you have a company that has been as viable and as profitable as Comcast and NBC that have done very well in the last, 12 years since that merger became official. I mean, they put themselves right into the second position behind Disney when, for the longest time, Warner Brothers and Disney were always seen as the competitors, but now it's Disney and Universal because of how much both of them have had success over the last couple of years in general here. But, it's a very interesting scenario here, but it's also a very alarming scenario, especially with, Paramount right around the corner ready to go ahead and try to buy up more stuff here to create this oligarchy here. We're seeing it with Warner Brothers. You could guarantee that Universal's probably next on the docket here if they do so. No, it's just like it feels like it's going to be that type of thing in general here. Plus, Comcast has always been one of Trump's biggest targets, so it would not surprise me at all if they try to go down that pathway. But I do find it kind of interesting that it's funny how 22 years ago Comcast almost bought Disney. It's hard to believe that because Disney was such in a low point at the beginning of the 2000s under the last couple of years of Michael Eisner that Comcast was literally about to buy Disney until that deal broke down in general, and thus Disney eventually got rid of Eisner and changed their company around to become the company that it is today. But it's an interesting scenario we got going on here. Alarming, yes, but it's interesting to see companies splitting apart instead of coming together. So, I mean, who knows? I don't know what's going to happen, but it does make it kind of interesting to see what the future holds for the Comcast and NBC. But, yeah, we'll see what happens as we go along here. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next story. And as the fact that The Rainbow Fish, a book that, it's one of those books that you think that's primed for a motion picture overall, is finally getting a movie thanks to StudioCanal. StudioCanal is getting behind an animated feature adaptation of Marcus Pfister's children's classic The Rainbow Fish, about an arrogant shiny fish who learns that there's more to life than glittering scales. The pan-European studio's German arm, StudioCanal Germany, is partnering with Klausen plus Poots Film Production and Zodiac Productions on the feature, continuing a collaboration which has also yielded titles such as The Robber Hudson Plots, The Little Witch, and Heidi. The book, which sold more than 30 million copies since its publication in 1992, is a beloved children's staple, but has also stirred up controversy in the U.S. in recent years amid debate over its underlining message. In the book, the protagonist is a beautiful but arrogant fish who is shunned when he refuses to share his glittering scales with other fish. On the advice of a wise old octopus, he starts giving up his scales to the point that he only has one left but ends up with a lot of friends. Writer Pfister has said that the story is ultimately about the beauty of sharing, but recent detractors have said it sent out mixed messages about individuality, acceptance, coercion, and boundaries, in turn sparking debates over cancel culture. This has not stopped StudioCanal putting their heft behind the animated adaptation. The creative team also took on board some of the recent conversations to put the original book's intended core message more clearly to the forefront. This resulted in a deliberate shifting of certain emphasis, new characters being introduced, and other adjustments. So that's a little bit alarming overall, yes, but I mean, it is something where you look at it and it is just kind of like, okay, well, let's see what they can do here. But you hear that last sentence, a deliberate shifting of certain emphasis, new characters being introduced, and other adjustments. Does that remind you of another recently released movie adaptation of a popular book that was also controversial for very different reasonings on the Rainbow Fish? A little film called Animal Farm. You remember that movie? I remember it. It's my new worst movie of all time. It's a terrible movie. And apparently this Rainbow Fish movie is already made, and it's apparently already getting a German theatrical release for November of this year. So, and it's still filming right now, but apparently it's getting made and ready to hit theaters by the end of the year, which also is very alarming. But I can't really think about this without thinking of what I saw with Animal Farm just recently. I mean, that movie was just such an insult to the book overall. It's just like, you know, that book took everything that made that book what it was and just completely just threw it out the window. And that's what has me the most alarmed about this movie in particular. And it just really, I think The Rainbow Fish is definitely a book that deserves to be put on the big screen, but not in the way it's being presented here. I've got a real bad feeling about this one, man. But we'll find out about it because it's going to come out at the end of the year in Germany, so that's where we'll hear about it first. But yeah, like I said, but with it, kind of like with the last story, I'm intrigued, but I'm also very concerned. So yeah, there is that. So on with the next story. Warner Brothers is still keeping up with the Zach Cregger business because he just got a big project sent to Warner Brothers once again. Fresh off the success of Backrooms, Hollywood has found its next Gen Z phenomenon to bring to screens. Warner Brothers has won a bidding war for the rights to Siren Head, and no, the name does not lie. Created by artist Trevor Henderson, this internet-fueled urban legend follows a mysterious predator who has 2 sirens for a head, as well as a long, thin frame. So he's kind of like Slender Man in a way, but now it will be the basis for a movie from Brian Duffield, who will direct from a screenplay he will write with Zach Cregger. Duffield's credits include the sci-fi horror film No One Will Save You. He also did Love and Monsters as well, and the upcoming survival thriller Whalefall, which comes out in the fall. And yeah, I saw the trailer for that a while back, and yeah, that movie looks intense, man. And yeah, that scene at the end of the trailer where the guy's getting eaten by eaten by the whale. It's just kind of like I felt like Maui from Moana, like, well, he's dead. But Cregger is one of the hottest creative forces in Hollywood right now, having written and directed last summer's breakout hit Weapons, which went on to win an Oscar for Amy Madigan. He also wrote and directed the well-received horror film Barbarian, which is finally getting a proper physical media release in August on 4K, and I can't wait to get my hands on that. Next up for Cregger is a reboot of Resident Evil, which hits theaters in September, also starring Austin Abrams, who's in Whalefall. The move comes as Hollywood is on the hunt for IP to attract a growing younger audience to theaters. Backrooms, which started as a YouTube sensation, became a hit movie for A24 when it brought to screen by its 20-year-old director Kane Parsons. Then there's Obsession, another recent horror hit that was created by 26-year-old Curry Barker, who also got his start on YouTube. Recent studies have shown that Gen Z has become Hollywood's most consistent audience visiting cinemas more frequently than their millennial cohorts, and far outpacing Gen Xers and baby boomers in terms of attendance. So I knew about Siren Head because Markiplier and Jacksepticeye did video game playthroughs of those back in the day. So I don't remember too much about the character. I just remember that the character Siren Head did make those noises. Did make the noises like a emergency broadcast system sirens, and he would scare you like Slender Man would. But I mean, it's being made by Brian Duffield, who made a great monster movie in Love and Monsters, and Zach Cregger, who is on a roll right now. So regardless, it should be a pretty good movie with those talents on board there. One would think, but we will definitely see what happens when we get to that film later on down the road. But let's go ahead and move on to our next story here, and this time we've got some news about the sequel to Heat. And as the fact that the rumors are true, Heat 2 is moving forward with a plan to start shooting production in November, and they already attached 2 big heavyweights to it. Academy Award winners Christian Bale and Leonardo DiCaprio are set to star in the sequel, which will shoot in November, according to The Wrap. While 2 individuals say the deals are already closed, 2 other individuals say the deals are in final negotiations but are expected to close. Bale will play Vincent Hanna, the dodged LAPD robbery homicide detective played by Al Pacino in the original film, while DiCaprio will play Chris Cherelis, who is played by Val Kilmer. Mann will return to write and direct the sequel, which originated as a novel written by Mann and Meg Gardner, released in 2022. Heat 2 serves as both a prequel and a sequel, taking place both before and after the events of Mann's seminal 1995 film Heat. A spokesperson for Amazon MGM Studios says that no deals have been finalized. The Wrap has also learned that Adam Driver is being sought for the villain Wardell and is deep in negotiations. Stephen Graham is also in talks to play Neil McCauley, the Robert De Niro role from the first film. A number of actresses are vying for the role of Charlene, originated by Ashley Judd, while other A-list names are circling the project, The Wrap understands. The original film, released in 1995, was based on LA Takedown, which Mann wrote and directed as a television pilot for an NBC series. That series was not picked up to pilot, as the pilot aired as a movie on August 27, 1989. It's a fascinating alternate universe version of Heat, with Scott Plank and Alex MacArthur as versions of the character later played by Pacino and De Niro. The film went on to gross more than $187 million on a budget of $60 million and is considered one of the greatest heist films of all time, known for its novelistic complexity and compelling characters. Shortly before the novel was released, Mann made his intention on turning it into a film, with DiCaprio, Bale, Driver, and Graham having been connected to the project for some time. Amazon MGM Studios beat out other studios for Heat 2 when Warner Brothers dropped it over the budget, which reached $200 million at the studio. The budget is now closer to $170 million, according to two insiders. The production is getting nearly $40 million from the California tax incentives. Jerry Bruckheimer and United Artists Scott Stuber and Nick Nesbitt are producing and executive producing alongside Shane Salerno and Eric Rock, both screenwriters who have worked with Mann for many years. This marks Bruckheimer and Mann's first collaboration in 45 years since Thief, Mann's first theatrical feature. The decision to go with Amazon came with Amazon's abilities to monetize the property long after the theatrical window expires, and giving the original film's long tail, it is consistently one of Warner Bros.' most lucrative rental titles. It made sense. Well, not only that, it's also a movie that has been through so many different studios through physical media, but they're not going to bring up physical media because why do that now in this day and age? But I'll touch on more on that later. But no, this is a movie that has been released through nearly every single studio on physical media. Picture this. So this movie was originally released by Warner Brothers, before it eventually got bought by Fox when Regency's lineup was picked up by them, and then it got released on home media by Paramount when Warner Brothers had the physical media rights to Paramount's catalog back in 2013 for a few years, and it's now owned by Disney because of their pickup of Fox. So yeah, it has literally been through every single studio except for Universal, which even then, with Universal and Warner Brothers teaming up on physical media titles, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a set where you could find Heat on there with a bunch of other gangster movies. Actually, hold on one second. I have the gangster collection here, but I'm starting to realize that He's not really a gangster movie. It's more of simply a heist film, but it's not on this set here. But just to show you how how pretty much Universal could put Heat on a set. This set I'm holding here, this Gangster 11 movie collection, has American Gangster, Scarface, The Departed, The Town, Casino, Public Enemies, A History of Violence, Training Day, Gangster Squad, Carlito's Way, and Goodfellas. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 Universal gangster movies and 6 Warner Brothers gangster films. But yeah, like I said, I started realizing after I grabbed it that Heat's not really a gangster movie per se, but if there was a heist collection, he probably would be in one of those sets overall. So yeah, Heat has been around in many different studios and in many ways and shapes and forms. And now it's getting a sequel released by MGM, which, yeah, it's like a roller coaster with the Heat franchise here. But like I said, it's a movie that I'm kind of looking forward to. I mean, Michael Mann hasn't really done a whole lot of good stuff in the last couple of years, but you know, he hasn't reached that point where I say he needs to go to the Hollywood retirement home like I've been saying for like Oliver Stone, Ridley Scott, James Cameron, Woody Allen, a couple of other directors I mentioned. But I read Heat 2 when it came out. I thought it was an interesting read overall, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with a new version with a new story of it. And you have Leonardo DiCaprio and Christian Bale coming in here, and the possibility of Adam Driver and maybe more here. This movie could be pretty good. It's one of those few sequels I would say, you know what? I usually am against sequels that come out way past the point of the original film, but in this case, I'd be willing to make an exception. So let's see what happens here. It might not end up being good, but at least it'll be interesting to see from what I read from the book for it. But speaking of franchises that shouldn't be franchises, let's talk about Moana, because not only is the live-action movie just a couple of days away, but apparently, according to Dwayne Johnson, well, Moana 3 is already happening. Yeah, so we're not even going to wait before we start beating the dead horse here, because yeah, the Moana franchise, unfortunately, has become a dead horse. Because, yeah, Moana 2 was not a good movie, and the word of mouth on the live-action Moana is not looking pretty good right now, but Dwayne Johnson's basically saying, oh no, we're going to do it. But this comes from Variety, and it says that Disney is coming back to the water with Moana 3, the latest installment of the animated oceanic musical adventure. Dwayne Johnson teased the news while promoting the live-action Moana, which opens in theaters on July 10th. Yes, we have talked about Moana 3, Johnson said at a press conference for Moana Rio de Janeiro. But first, live-action Moana. We'll let that come out first. We have the amazing Jared Bush and Dana Liddell Miller, who have been our writers. They will pen Moana 3. Like Dwayne Johnson's literally saying this, like, this is his movie. Like, he's basically taking it over in the same way that that he tried to take over the DC cinematic universe with Black Adam. And we all know how well that turned out. But, the original Moana grossed a sizable $680 million at the global box office in 2016, but exploded in popularity on Disney+, where it remains one of their most watched streaming titles. Moana 2 was originally developed as a streaming for Disney+, and by developed as a streaming, I mean developed as a TV series that they basically cut down into a movie. And Disney's decision to pull the Moana property in theaters was quickly justified. Why? Like, why was Moana 2 a hit? It still baffles me to this very day why that movie was a hit. I mean, Moana 2 was not even a good movie. It was literally cutting pieces from previous episodes of that Disney Plus show, and it did not feel like a real movie. The songs were terrible. Everyone was talking about how the people who were making the movie were literally coming out saying, "Oh, you're gonna remember this movie, all right. You're gonna remember these songs so much that you'll be like, oh my God, the songs of Moana 2 are amazing." I cannot tell you one fucking song I remember from Moana 2, and I'm willing to bet you that nobody else would either. But I mean, they're just beating a dead horse at this point, because it's just like I'll give it this. It's got to be better than Moana 2, because at least it sounds like they're starting from scratch all over again. They're not just going to do a straightforward cutting of something that was originally intended for a series, and it seems like they will try to at least put effort into making a real movie. So I'll give them credit for that. If that's the way it goes, then I'd be willing to go for that. But I get a feeling that he's saying this trying to get the buzz built up, because it just feels like, because he did the same thing, like I said, he did the same thing when Black Adam was coming out. Like, he was saying, there's a new hierarchy in the DC cinematic universe, and of course Black Adam was a huge bomb, and then the rest is history. I get the feeling that he's saying this now to say that, oh no, we're making Moana 3. I will force Josh D'Amaro to make Moana 3. But yeah, I just don't think it's gonna. I just don't think that. I just have a feeling it's going to be like Black Adam all over again. He says it's going to happen, but it probably won't. I'm willing to bet more than likely it does not happen, especially after Moana, this upcoming Moana movie, bombs at the box office, which I really do hope it does, man, because, like, it's going to be unbearable if that live-action Moana movie becomes a big hit, and, good stuff like Minions and Monsters gets pushed off to the side, even though that was a sequel that actually put effort into it. And you know that this live-action Moana is not going to put any effort into it. You can already see it from the stuff that was coming out. Like, a lot of the same problems with these live-action remakes are starting to show in that particular movie. Like, in this upcoming film, it's just like, lifeless-looking characters. Bleaker colors than the original movie. But I don't know, man. I just don't have a good feeling about this movie coming up here. So let's step away from the world of movies and get to some really big news stories here. Of course, there was a lot of big stuff going on in the world of sports. Certain wedding between a Kansas City Chiefs tight end and one of the most overrated singers ever. But we're not going to tackle that here. We're going to tackle what's happening with LeBron James. And that is, of course, that LeBron James has told everybody that he is going to play somewhere else in 2026. He's leaving the Lakers after he was there in 2018. So after 8 years with the team, he's going off to play for another team, and they're setting it up again like it's another edition of the announcement, like from when he announced he was going to the Miami Heat, which I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, but ESPN's sure going to make it seem like it's big. It's a bigger deal than that. Says ESPN, this is from ESPN, saying that LeBron James will return for an unprecedented 24th season in the NBA, but it won't be with the Los Angeles Lakers. James has informed the Lakers that the franchise can move on without him because he will play somewhere else. Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul told ESPN's Shams Karina. I don't know how to say this name because I see the name all the time. I just don't know the pronunciation of it on Tuesday. LeBron James is one of the greatest athletes in history. We will always be thankful for his 8 years with the Lakers. So it was 8 years, including the title he led us to in 2020, which was I can't even say what I'm going to say here, which let's be honest, that 2020 championship is about as real as the 2020 Tampa Bay championship or the Los Angeles Rams championship. You know that the only reason they won those championships was because they were in a bubble. They weren't playing the regular rules of the championships overall. They were doing it because of COVID. Like, I'm still convinced that Tampa Bay and Los Angeles only won their Super Bowls in their home stadiums because of COVID. Because they didn't want any other teams from fan bases from other teams coming down to the Super Bowl for those particular games here. I'm sorry. Until that day comes when Tampa Bay or Los Angeles wins another championship, I refuse to believe that that's actually what happened. But anyway, back to the story here. He led us through in 2020 under the toughest imaginable circumstances, and the countless records he broke in purple and gold. Lakers governor Jeannie Buss said in the statement, "We will wish him all the best in the future, both on the court and off. He will always be a cherished part of our Laker family." James posted to X that it was truly an honor to wear the Lakers uniform and that I hope I made a few proud during my stint. Well, you made Space Jam 2, so I guess there's that. But of course now the big thing is, where is he going to go next? There is, of course, talks about the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Miami Heat possibly in the reunion stages for him. But there's also been some pretty juicy ones too, like the 76ers is an option. What was another one? The Golden State Warriors to pair up with Steph Curry. There's some other teams in particular, such as the Denver Nuggets, Minnesota Timberwolves, who of course traded Giannis to Miami just recently. The San Antonio Spurs, the Boston Celtics, the Dallas Mavericks, the New York Knicks. Which, yeah, if you thought the New York Knicks were obnoxious right now because they won the title, imagine how more obnoxious they're going to be once LeBron James goes there. And the funny part is, I really do think that might be something that might actually happen. I really do think that could be something that could indeed happen. If I mean, a real scenario to me would be to see LeBron James fulfilling the prophecy and going simply to the Chicago Bulls to be, you want to be like Michael Jordan? Go fill his shoes. Go be in Chicago with the Chicago Bulls. But that's never going to happen, of course, because that would make too much sense. And hey, we need ESPN to fill up as much time over the next month before he makes his decision by saying basically, let's go ahead and just start talking about all the crazy places he can go. Because ESPN's going to do that. Because there's nothing else going on right now. Yeah, there's the World Cup, but ESPN doesn't even give a shit about the World Cup. Hell, I don't even give a shit about the World Cup. But it's just, I mean, I think the big thing overall is that I think it's going to be a major letdown if he goes back to a place like Cleveland or the Miami Heat, a place he's been before, because it'd be like the NBA equivalent of Mike McCarthy joining the Steelers as the head coach. Like, you expect, they're making a big move here, and they don't even wait a couple of weeks before they basically say, Mike McCarthy, come here, you're going to be our new Steelers head coach. After going from Mike Tomlin, which was a gamble back in the day, but it's like they never learned their lesson. And yeah, it feels like it's going to be the same thing if he goes back to Cleveland or with the Miami Heat. It just feels like it's going to be a very underwhelming decision, and I really hope they don't hype it up as the next, as just like they did with the decision back in 2010. Because when he did it in 2010, he'd been with the Cavs for 8 years at that point. He did stuff that got people excited. He was the most exciting player that was around at that time, and nowadays it's just kind of like he's basically turned into old man Aaron Rodgers at this point. Like, at this point, it's just like, okay, nobody really should care on paper, but but these sports outlets are going to make it a much bigger deal than it has to be. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen here. I would like him to go to a place where it's not going to be the same place he's been before, but it just feels like it's going in that type of direction overall. So, but anyway, so let's go ahead and move on to what is easily the biggest story of the week here. I've kind of mentioned it in other videos as well, and it led to a new series that you probably just saw this week if you've been watching this channel. But let's get to what is arguably now the biggest story of the entire week, and that is, of course, what's going on at PlayStation. And that is, of course, that Sony PlayStation made the decision on Wednesday to phase out physical video game discs by January of 2028. So, yeah, this is not good. This is not good at all. So, here's the article from Deadline Hollywood. Sony PlayStation said Wednesday it plans to end production on new video game discs, a feature of the media entertainment landscape for 3+ decades by January 2028. The decision laid out in a company blog post following a recent announcement from Take-Two Interactive's Rockstar Games that its long-awaited title Grand Theft Auto 6 will be digital only, which basically, Rockstar feels vindicated now because they knew 2 weeks before this news got announced that this was happening, because Grand Theft Auto 6 is now going to be digital only. Steady declines in physical game disc sales mirrors the patterns in the home entertainment and music businesses. Vinyl records have been a bright spot, however, staging a big comeback for music labels and topping $1 billion in sales last year for the first time since 1983. Netflix wound down its DVD by mail business in 2023. This is a natural direction for Sony Interactive Entertainment to adapt to consumers' trend as the general preference for digital media significantly outpaces physical discs. The transition will enable us to align more closely with how most of our community prefers to access and play games today. You can smell the bullshit right there, because if you saw this, then you know automatically what the problem with this whole thing is altogether. It's funny because when PlayStation 4 was coming out, there was a controversy with Xbox because Xbox was not going to do physical disc for their new system, and PlayStation 4 basically trolled them with a commercial with their tagline being "Play has no limits." Well, play has limits now, because basically getting rid of the physical disc means that you don't own your game anymore. You don't own a physical copy of your game. Sony can now tell you whether or not you can keep your game or not, because that's what this whole thing is about. It's about, ownership of something that you should have because you paid all that money for. And now Sony's basically saying, you don't own that anymore. Not to us. And guess what? There's a massive backlash going on right now. Not just with internet people. There's been users canceling subscriptions. People are throwing their stuff in the trash. It's getting so bad that video game people who work in the industry are really pissed off about what Sony is doing. Hideo Kojima came out and basically said that he really is disappointed by this overall. But speaking of Xbox, they also made news this week, but PlayStation obviously took the brunt of the news this week because of what they did here. But Xbox also made some news about their but here's the thing that they were doing. They were testing disc-to-digital features that digitizes the physical gaming collection. It says Microsoft will likely soon follow Sony and stop the production of physical discs for Xbox games. But instead of leaving physical discs behind entirely, sources familiar with Microsoft's plans tell me the company has quietly been working on a disc-to-digital feature that will allow Xbox owners to digitize their existing physical game collections. Xbox employees recently started testing this new feature after references to enable disc-to-digital appeared in the Xbox PC app code in May. I'm told that... Okay, hold on a second. I was literally reading the article on The Verge, and then the thing came up and said, "Yo, you want to read the rest of this? Subscribe to our channel." I was just like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. But anyway, here's another story from Mashable. Let's see how long this stays up here. But last month, details about a new Xbox program codenamed Positron were leaked, hinting at a potential disc-to-digital program, but the details were relegated to spare snippets of code labeled disc-to-digital. Now, a new report obtained by Windows Insider gives us better insight into what Microsoft hopes to achieve with Positron. Most of the fan backlash is focused on the second-hand market, which would be effectively killed off if all games become digital products. But there's another valid issue raised by the loss of physical disc drivers: backward compatibility. What are the millions of gamers with vast libraries of physical games supposed to do if future consoles no longer support a disc drive? Thankfully, Microsoft has already emphasized the importance of backwards compatibility in previous iterations of its Xbox gaming consoles, and Positron seems like a continuation of that same commitment. So, it seems like Microsoft is doing essentially what PlayStation was doing back in the day with PS4, basically trolling, Microsoft, basically Sony trolling Microsoft for what they were going to do with their Xbox system back then. Now it's the other way around. The tables have been turned in this situation for PlayStation. And it's important to also note here that it's not just physical video games that are on the line here. Don't forget, Sony owns Blu-ray discs. Blu-ray discs are what you watch your movies and TV shows on, and also DVDs. Yeah. So that's something to worry about here, especially with people stores continuing to take out physical media, pretending like it's just, no, don't believe the people out there. Physical media is dead. Physical media is not going to be anything anymore. We want you to all go digital, and no. Of course, I obviously can tell you that is incorrect. In fact, there is more people that are so invested in physical media now, especially with what just happened this past week, than there has been before. And yeah, the companies don't want you to admit it. Sony is afraid to put out a response because they know as soon as somebody comes out there and they put out a statement about this new thing, the internet is going to ream them so quickly here. And the hope is that the backlash will get so bad and Sony will start to lose more money that they will basically say, okay, we're changing our mind altogether on this whole thing. But sadly, I don't think that's going to be the case here this time around. I'm just starting to realize that, I mean, I hate to bring politics back into it again, but ever since Donald Trump became president again, it seemed like it's become more clearer that people with a lot of money can do whatever they want and have no consequences to it whatsoever. And I really don't think Sony is going to let the backlash really get to them because they're a multi-billion-dollar company. And yeah, you could say that, you stop buying all this stuff and they'll stop doing it, but I really don't think they're going to listen on this whole thing around. I think they're going to stick with this, and they're going to try to convince you that physical media is a dying format. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's not. Physical media is still more reliable now than it was 40 years ago when the first VHS tapes came out. I mean, I've always seen streaming as more of a necessity than a need. Something that you don't really need to have in your life, but it's cool to see. It would be cool to see some of the stuff that's on there. I don't think streaming is the way to go. There's a reason why I started the Physical Media is Forever show this week, and I wanted to do that because I feel like the more you let people know that physical media is forever and it's still going to be there no matter what, the more it'll convince people to go out there and start buying stuff. You could still find ways to get workable VHS players, DVD players, CD players. I mean, vinyl records have made a comeback, as I said in the article. Laserdisc, I think, could still be a viable option in the future overall for people to bring that back all around. I think there is still a lot of ways you can bring back all these old things, because we do like old stuff like that stuff in particular, and we don't want to see that going away. We don't want streaming to become the norm in general here, just like we don't want Hollywood's approach to making films in the future being simply AI or ChatGPT with all these terrible movies that they've made over the last couple of years, emphasizing more of artificial intelligence. I mean, it's just the way things are going right now, and quite frankly, I really don't like it where it's going. I would like to that's why I'm hoping that what I'm doing here with this Physical Media is Forever show is going to help bring a light to physical media people and get people to come around to the fact that physical media is still viable and can still be something that can still be appreciated in this day and age. But these companies are going to do whatever it takes to try to make you think otherwise here. But that's the great thing about this channel here. I own this whole channel. I'm not owned by any company in any way, shape, or form. So this is coming from the heart. This is coming from me saying that physical media is forever, and I will do everything in my power to make sure that it sticks around, no matter what it is. No matter if it's CDs, video games, movies, TV shows, you name it. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure physical media is still a part of my life from the day I leave this planet, which hopefully will not be for a long, long time. But life works in mysterious ways sometimes. So there you go. That's it. Let me get off my soapbox here for that, and thank you for taking the time to listen to that, people. I really do appreciate that. But so there you go. That's what's happening right now with PlayStation and Xbox. That's the biggest story going on right now in the world of entertainment in general. And, well, okay, maybe not with the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift wedding and Comcast and all that. But that's the story that really stuck out to me the most this week here because, I'm a physical media collector. I have a massive DVD and Blu-ray collection, man. These are my children. Like, these essentially are my kids. It sounds bad. That sounds awful, but I'm sorry. That's just kind of what it is to me. Like, I don't want to have kids. I don't feel I'm in no advanced move to start a family, settle down, all that type of stuff. I don't want kids. So these are the closest thing I have to kids right now. Well, that and my two pets, my dog and my cat. But you get the idea here. So, okay, I'm going to get off the soapbox now, and let's get to what you're really here to see, I would hope, our feature presentation, which is, of course, the State of the Reviewing Network address. Hear ye, order, everyone be quiet, shut up. I don't know what that was all about, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, whoever you are, we're welcoming of everybody here, but, ladies and gentlemen, the State of the Reviewing Network is sound. It's time, once again, for the annual tradition at the halfway point of the year, the State of the Reviewing Network address for 2026. Now, for those of you who are new to this and don't have any idea what the hell I'm talking about, this is my little announcements. This is kind of like a Comic-Con panel, if you will, where I'm talking about several projects I've got in the works coming up over the next year. And of course, our channels have been doing very, very strong over the last couple of years. Especially this past year, with more emphasis on adding more content to both this channel as well as the regular YouTube channel. And we are continuing to move up in the subscribing world. On our main Reviewing Network channel, we have over 5,600 subscribers, which is very above from where we were the previous year. And this channel in particular has also seen a lot of growth over the last couple of years. People are discovering my trailer reactions to the point where we have brought in a ton of viewers over the last couple of months. As of this past month or so, we have brought in over 138 subscribers, so we are up to 659 as of July 5th, 2026. And with the new stuff we've already got in the works, surely that's going to be a continuing factor going forward in the future. And of course, we've got all these different projects going on right now. Right now, we're in the midst of the Tomlin documentary that I've been doing this past year, all summer long. Christmas in July just got underway this year. I've got September shorts coming up in the month of September. September segments coming up in the month of September. But we'll touch on all those things too. But this is going to be a very different State of the Reviewing Network address. You're going to hear some announcements of some stuff I've got coming up. That's surely coming. But there's also going to be some stuff that this year was very different in putting together this year's State of the Reviewing Network address. I had a lot of stuff that I had as question marks, stuff that I wanted to, stuff that I might be considering doing for the future. But I got a couple things here, a couple of notable stuff here about, let's see, 7 things here that are question marks for stuff that I could be doing in the next year or so. So that's what we're going to start off here to kick off the State of the Reviewing Network address. The projects that I'm thinking about doing, but I haven't made a full commitment to doing them just yet. So, of course, the big thing that everyone is wondering is what's going to happen after Time About the Movies completes its run. Well, as I mentioned before, Time About the Movies is eventually going to come to an end this year because I am nearing the end of my cutoff date of February of 2022, because that's when the show first started, in February 2022. And I've always said that my cutoff date is going to be when I first started that particular show, which was the weekend of February 25th, I believe. I think it was February 24th, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that's always been my plan overall. So my plan in particular is to have that series continue into, because the target date right now is to end around New Year's. Today I did December 1st and 8th, 2017. So by the time this week ends, we'll already be into 2018, which is about right where I had everything set up here. In fact, I'm looking at my blog guide that I follow, and the next date is going to be December 15th, which will be tomorrow's video. So I'm currently right where I want to be. Doing those double and triple weekends actually paid off for me in the long run. But yeah, the goal right now is to have episodes on this on the main channel, and also on this channel, clipless versions, from now until New Year's Eve on December 31st, 2026, and then that is when the show will come to an end. So the question now becomes, what follows after that? Well, a lot of the question mark ideas I have here are simply ideas of potential shows that could follow that up. So one of the first ones I have in mind is a weekly version of a daily version of September Forever. Of course, September is the Simpsons dedicated month I do in the month of September, and this month in particular, we're doing most of season 4 and the beginnings of season 5. So if we do this, we would essentially be continuing on from that point going forward, at the early part of season 5, and then going on until the end of the show in general. It's an idea I thought about doing, but then it kind of takes away from the enjoyment of doing September every year in the month of September. But it's an option. It's something that I keep in mind. But One thing that I think will more likely happen is the fact that I might be making the Time About the Movies flashback shows a nightly thing. I do them every week. I do them every Friday night now because of the commitment I do for Time About the Movies. So there's a good chance that by the time Time About the Movies comes to an end, the show will essentially be replaced with Time About the Movies flashback on a nightly basis. But I haven't made a commitment to that either. But that's looking more likely than the September Forever series. But again, keeping that in mind for the possible future. I have a planned Oscars 100. I have an idea for an Oscars 100th anniversary documentary, documenting the 99 Academy Awards leading up to the big 100th Oscars in 2028. So it's a long commitment thing, and that's one of those ones where I feel like if I'm gonna do this, I probably should have started already back when the last Oscars happened, because the 100th Oscars is going to be in 2028, which will also be the last year of the Oscars on television on ABC before it eventually moves over to YouTube in 2029. So that's one of the documentaries I thought about doing. I've been thinking about maybe doing a late night talk show type of thing, which leads into one of the things I am going to do here, starting with the stuff that starting pretty much by tomorrow. But I thought about doing a late night talk show because that's why I've been catching up on so many late night shows as of late. And watches like old school David Letterman stuff, Conan O'Brien, Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, all that type of stuff in general. So that one's kind of like with September Forever. It's an idea. It's not a realization of something that I might do. The next thing I have here potentially is a week in the life of the Reviewing Network. This is something that I tried to do back in 2020 before COVID happened, and it started right at the beginning of 2020, and then as COVID happened and it just became harder and harder to put together a daily vlog post for every day for that. But I might try to bring that back in a weekly format here. Plus I think it'll move much smoother without COVID restrictions and all that. I'll actually be able to go around and actually do something besides just sitting on my ass all day long. But which, to be honest, that really wasn't what I was doing when I went during COVID. I happened to have the one job that stayed open no matter what, and I had no choice but to go out and go do my work at the grocery store that I work at during COVID. Which, yeah, it kind of sucks because I'm potentially bringing home a virus to my family. But regardless, that was something that happened. But it happened. But hopefully that won't happen again here, and hopefully I'll be able to do something with this newer show if I decide to go down that pathway. So if that happens, that'll be something I'll think about doing. I thought about doing a trailer reaction show because the trailer reaction videos do so well here on YouTube, and so it gives me kind of the idea to potentially maybe do that as a weekly series, maybe a weekly series overall. I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to do full up trailers while you're seeing the trailers on the screen because of copyright restrictions. I tried doing that with Wicked for Good last year when the teaser came out, but that video got blocked because of Universal seeing the trailer, because of the Universal trailer being in there. So, but that's an option possibly. And then the last thing I thought about doing here is and this is for the main channel. I thought about maybe re-releasing some of the old Reviewing Network Live episodes onto the main channel, because the title of this channel is the Reviewing Network Live. And yet the Reviewing Network Live show that's supposed to be like the big centerpiece of this program barely cracks 20 views. Like, it's one of the least watched shows on this channel. And it sucks because this is the show that I literally put my time and effort into to try to make it something that should be the marquee thing you see on this channel. And yet this thing barely cracks 20 views every single week. I don't know if it's just simply because I'm not getting it out there to people the way you're supposed to do it. I mean, I feel like I'm doing it. I'm getting it to my social media my social media outlets out there, and it just never really feels like I get the views that I think this should overall. I get more views for everything else I do, but the Reviewing Network Live podcast, which I don't know. I mean, maybe this is something I should try doing. Maybe I will try to get some of these older episodes onto the main channel. Maybe like kind of like how a TV show after a couple of years is on broadcast television goes into syndication. We'll see how that pans out here. I might test it out later this month with some of the early episodes overall, but they're not going to be the ones that you cannot already see on the main channel as well, because I do have some episodes that were originally posted to the main channel, but also connect back over to here. But but that's something I might think about doing maybe later in the month. So be on the lookout for that over on the main channel, possibly. So that's the stuff of possibilities that I'm working on here. So let's get to some of the stuff that I can confirm is going to happen in the next year or so. So like I said, that's the stuff that I'm thinking about doing for the future. Here's the stuff that's coming this year for certain. For the week of November 15th, I am going to be doing a week of videos dedicated to Space Jam, because it's going to be the 30th anniversary of the release of that movie back in 1996. One of my earliest movie-going experiences. The first real movie I was looking forward to as a kid. I mean, Michael Jordan was the big deal back then. Chicago Bulls were the team that I watched on TV a lot back in the day. And Looney Tunes were all over the place on Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. You know, I mean, this movie was made for me around that time. It's one of those movies that I know is not that great. I know I've already done a commentary for it last year on the Reviewing Network Live, which, truth be told, that's probably one I should have saved for this year. But we'll save the film commentary for this year, coming up at the end here. But yeah, Space Jam 30th anniversary week. I'm going to do a series of videos. I'm going to have an update of my Space Jam collection, which I've shown off in videos on the other channel. But we'll do a lot of that. We'll have some other videos in particular centered for that. I haven't decided what exactly they're going to be just yet, but that's going to be coming up the week of November the 15th when the movie came out. So that should be the week. November, I think it's November, I think let's see, November, Monday, the second Monday in November is November the 9th. Yes. And then, of course, Sunday, November 15th is the official 30th anniversary. So we'll have that planned for that. I have a new documentary that I've got working on coming up in 2027, and that is a documentary about the last king of late night, and that is David Letterman. I mean, Conan O'Brien. I mean, I've done documentaries about I've done videos about Conan O'Brien, but I wanted to do a documentary focusing on David Letterman, who was like, David Letterman was basically kind of Johnny Carson the Johnny Carson from my generation. Johnny Carson, you know, in the twilight of David Letterman in the twilight of his career, and Johnny Carson in the twilight of his years were very similar to one another. And everyone thought that, well, Johnny Carson, David Letterman and Johnny Carson Johnny Carson went on a much grander note than David Letterman did. David Letterman just kind of phased out of existence in his last couple of years. I watched some of those the last years of David Letterman's Late Show. The guy really did not lose a lot of his beat at all. So I wanted to do a documentary focusing on that, the works of David Letterman, from his failed morning show to late night to Late Show with David Letterman to what he's been doing now. So that's going to be a documentary that I'm going to be working on. I haven't decided on the length of that documentary series just yet, but that's going to be coming up soon. I am going to introduce a new video. That opening I did about the Digger trailer reaction kind of is the focus of it. I'm going to do a new video series called The Monologue, which kind of was going to take from the format I was going to do for the late night talk show, which was a straight up late night talk show format, spending some time talking about a story that happened to me most recently, a big news story in general, and making a separate video on that front there. So that Digger trailer reaction that I just did, the Digger controversy on TikTok right now with me, is something that is going to be put into a separate video later on down the road. Sometime this week I'll be put out there, and we're going to see how that works out here. That's why the show's going to start off with a little bit more of kind of a feel of a late night talk show at first, with that little bit of a monologue before we get to the main format of the show here. We'll test it out, see how it works out here. If it doesn't work out, so be it. The big thing we released this week was Physical Media is Forever, which is the new YouTube short series I'm doing, focusing on the multiple movies in my DVD and Blu-ray collection. I spend 3 minutes talking about a specific collection, DVD or Blu-ray that I have in my collection. Talk about that. Talk about the importance of having a copy of it overall, and multiple copies in my case. But yeah, that's already going on right now. So hopefully you guys have been enjoying that, and look forward to more of them as that becomes a new perennial feature here on this channel. And then the feature film commentary that will kick off our 4th season on Sunday, September the 6th. Yeah, Sunday, September the 6th. I'm going to do a comment. Originally, this was going to be a commentary for one of my favorite movies of all time, A Boy Named Charlie Brown, but I decided to change that just today. So I changed it today mostly because I saw this movie on TV again today. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time. It's a relatively short movie, too. It's just under 90 minutes long, so that's usually how I've been wanting to do the feature commentary, so it doesn't feel like you're sitting here for a long period of time. But I am going to do a feature-length commentary on one of my favorite comedies of all time, 1995's Tommy Boy, with Chris Farley and David Spade. It's a movie that I love to death. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time. Still very hilarious after all these years. It's a movie I love so much, and I'm looking forward to doing a commentary for it. That's going to be on the Season 4 opener of the Reviewing Network Live, which will be on Sunday, September the 6th, so be on the lookout for that. And last but not least, something that I brought up about a month ago was the fact that I said I was going on vacation in mid-September, but I don't think I told you exactly where I'm going. And if I did, then that's my fault, and I probably should have realized that. But for those of you that don't know, I'm going back to Florida again. I'm going back to Orlando. It's only going to be for a couple of days, not the usual week-long vacation I usually take, because this came pretty much at the last minute, is almost at the last minute here, but not as last minute as the last trip I went on, which I didn't even know I was going to Orlando until the early part of October. It was a trip that just kind of came out of nowhere, and I got an opportunity to go down, and I took that chance. So that was about 4 years ago. So things have definitely changed in Orlando since then. Of course, Universal has opened up Epic Universe. I probably will not be able to make it down there, unfortunately, which sucks, because I really wanted to go down and see Epic Universe. We are going to go see Universal on the first day we're down there, because we have some time before our hotel rooms are ready to go. But I'm only going to be down there for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the early part of Sunday, and then I come home on Sunday night. So that's why I also have to make the news that the Reviewing Network Live Sunday Night NFL rewatch opener, which was supposed to be the Steelers and the Falcons, is not going to happen now. So I guess so. Right now, it looks like it's the first Sunday Night NFL rematch of the regular season rewatch of the regular season is going to be the Colts and the Chiefs in Week 2. So, but I'll try to put another game in later on in the year to kind of combat with that overall. So you'll get a bonus Sunday Night NFL rewatch in the 2026 season. I just don't know exactly what that's going to be just yet, but keep an eye on that. Stay tuned for that coming up in the not too distant future. So those are all the big announcements that we have for this year's State of the Reviewing Network address for 2026. And like I said, most of the stuff I mentioned in the beginning is stuff that I might do, but are not full confirmations just yet. But the Space Jam 30th Anniversary Week, the David Letterman documentary, the monologue, Physical Media's Forever, Tommy Boy commentary, and the Orlando trip in September. All that is happening, and of course I'll have Orlando vlogs coming up in the month of the month I go down. September. It'll be September 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Yes. Actually, that's wrong. September 10th is when I'd be leaving, because I'm leaving on September the 10th on Thursday. September 11th is a Friday. Then September... Oh, I'm right. Yeah, because September 4th is a Friday. So, yeah. Thursday, September 10th. Friday, September 11th. Saturday, September 12th. I go to do something early in the day on Sunday, September the 13th. And then I'm back home by Sunday night. So, there we go. So there you go. That's the State of the Reviewing Network for 2026. So let's go ahead and wrap this up here by taking a look at some recommendations for the week. Which is really not a whole lot. Honestly, the biggest new release is a new 4K re-release of the original Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, which is being released by Sony in preparation for the new Evil Dead movie coming out this week. We do have the drama, Zendaya and Robert Pattinson starring in that movie, which I have yet to see that movie. I've been wanting to check it out, though. But Criterion's got a nice-looking edition of The Elephant Man. Stone Cold is coming out from Kino Lorber, the Brian Bosworth So Bad It's Good movie, which it really is that. It's a So Bad It's Good type of film. But other than that, that's about it. I mean, it's been kind of a quiet couple of weeks here in the world of new releases. I mean, the big new release last week was Crime 101, which is a great movie, by the way. If you haven't seen Crime 101, definitely check that one out. But yeah, it's kind of a slow period right now, but it does get better the following week with the release of Obsession. And a couple of other notable titles here in particular. Michael's coming out on Blu-ray if you want to spend your money on that, because I certainly won't. Lee Cronin's The Mummy comes out on July the 14th. Oh, and the greatest movie of the year so far, Animal Farm, gets its Blu-ray release this week, because, yeah, that'll be something that everyone will want in their collection. Not. But anyway, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Reviewing Network Live. Thank you so much for joining me on this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe button, notification button. Check out our playlist in the corner. Check out some of our previous episodes as well. And I hope you guys have been enjoying this. It's hard to believe that we're coming up on the 3 years of starting the show in general. And I feel proud of myself for putting a lot of effort into this show. And I just hope that people will get to see it out there. My plan, hopefully, to put some of those those episodes on the main channel, hopefully works out in my favor. But knowing me, it'll probably not. But we'll see what happens when that takes place here. Again, I'll try test it out at the beginning of the month here. So in the middle of the month here. Sorry, excuse me. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this, and I will see you guys next week for another episode. So until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Until then, we are out.